That right there is a visual illustration of Tottenham Hotspur's biggest issues in possession summed up. We cannot get the ball to Xavi Simons. That pivot is not brave enough on the ball to make things happen when the onus is on us to win games of football, to be on the front foot. And that is what Thomas Frank has to change going forward. Welcome back to the Bowman YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Another home defeat. Our home form is sketchy at best. 3 wins, I think, in our last 18. Just the 1 win so far this season in the Premier League, 3 in all competitions, but all of them in their moments have come with questions. And yesterday was a performance with more questions, and more questions even more around the setup. We cannot get the ball to Xavi Simons in the pockets where we need him to, and we are not brave enough at home to really kind of be on the front foot. This midfield pivot of Bentancur and Palhinha is not working, and it needs to change, and we'll go into why in this video. If you are new, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Please make sure to like the video as well. We're back tomorrow with a preview for the Monaco game, where hopefully we do see some changes potentially. I want to talk about our, obviously, in possession kind of woes. I want to talk about why Pedro Porro is one of our biggest threats, but why we can't keep being so over-reliant on him just kind of spamming the ball to Kudus down the line. I want to talk about, obviously, the goals that we conceded, and it's time to have a conversation about Guillermo Vicario as well. Now, what we saw a lot of with Tottenham yesterday, and it was quite predictable from the kind of outset with the lineup, was a lot of this kind of horseshoe football. And this has been a problem which I've kind of addressed, and others have as well, so far this season. And I thought some of those issues would be rectified by getting Xavi Simons more centrally. I could live with the game against Bournemouth that we lost in the 3rd game of the season, because Bournemouth I think they're a top side right now, and I think at that point we didn't have a number 10 that was press resistant and could kind of drop deep and help us get out of really aggressive presses. And then when Simons came into the team, he was kind of easing him in by playing him on the left and Vicario, and there was only a couple of moments where he dropped in and kind of got into the areas where you wanted him to be, and we wanted to see more of that. Then against Leeds, where he played in the 10, he was combining really nicely with Odegaard and Udogie out on the left-hand side. And I think we missed Udogie yesterday, and we massively missed Romero as well, which we'll come on and obviously talk about. So yesterday, to see him play in the 10 was obviously positive, but that pivot behind him is just never going to optimise a number 10 like Simons, who you kind of want, for the most part, receiving it between the lines to absolutely thrive, but also you want him to be able to have the freedom to come deep and collect it, like James Maddison, for example. Maddison is someone that I think we obviously miss, but I think Simons can replicate what he gives us in terms of dropping deep to be able to create patterns, take players out of the game, and then exploit the space in behind, because there was space in behind that Villa back line. We knew what they were going to do. We knew that they were going to be physical in midfield, kind of pack it out centrally, and then leave space in behind with this high line at the back, with Cash, Konsa, Torres, and Digne. We knew that they were all going to kind of push up here and allow Spurs space in behind and try and entice balls in behind that back line and try and catch us offside. It's classic kind of Emery ball. But Spurs couldn't do that. We did it on occasion. There was a couple of times where they caught us offside, but largely we were too passive and slow in our kind of play here. Just recycling the ball kind of around at the back. And Bentancur, you kind of see his limitations in possession. I think this one might be a little bit harsh, but you see him, if this is kind of Xavi Simons in this area, kind of given the license to drop back a little bit deeper, you can see him wriggling away from Gesson and kind of opening up the pitch, but instead he turns back, passes out for a goal kick. A corner, sorry. Spurs here building up at the back with Bentancur kind of dropping into the back line. Can he then quickly, to get Spurs out, can he be brave enough to try and punch this ball through here to João Palhinha, who's asking for it? No, he moves it sideways to Danso. Danso puts his foot on the ball. Can he trust Xavi Simons to, with his low centre of gravity, to entice these two towards him to be able to wriggle through and into that space, and you're away? But Danso kind of ponderous on the ball, recycles it back. And this is the thing with Thomas Frank, right, is that when Frank came in, one of the quotes that he said that kind of got Spurs fans on board straight away was, we need to be brave. Like, to not take risk is to also take risk. Like, you have to be forward thinking. You have to be progressive. We're not really seeing that in these kind of games. Tottenham are a team, I think, at the moment that are set up really well away from home and will cause teams a lot of problems. And actually, in the bigger games, I think will kind of do well. But Aston Villa, despite the fact they've turned things around in terms of their form recently, they're still kind of there for the taking. And there was opportunities to exploit that space left in behind, but you've got to do things quicker. You've got to get the ball into those kind of players like Simmons quicker. And you have to risk losing the ball, especially, and we'll come on to it in a little bit, when you've got someone so elite out of possession in João Palhinha, who, if you do lose the ball in dangerous positions, is excellent at winning that back. Sometimes you have to risk to be able to get the rewards. And again, it's not an easy pass for Dan. I think Romero probably does this. I think Romero does trust him, because you know what Simmons can do. He can drop the shoulder and go in between two there with Onana and McGinn on him, or he wins a foul and then you can get up the pitch a little bit. But instead, we recycle it back. Out to Van de Ven, back into Bentancur, out to Kevin Danso. Simmons drops in, kind of looking for the ball. But again, there's still quite a big disconnect between, obviously, then the midfield and Tell. You can see Villa kind of like bunched up with that line. They are high there. They're trying to get Spurs to kind of play into that space and back themselves to kind of catch them offside. Simmons drops into the pocket. He kind of pops it off to Palhinha here, but we just end up with kind of recycling and going backwards and sideways and backwards and sideways. And again here, if you look at Bentancur's passing map, if I go back to here, look at that. That's just against teams where you're expected to dominate the ball at home. That is not good enough. It's not good enough. Anytime he tried and did play the ball forward, he kind of lost it, as kind of visualised by those red arrows. But it's just too safe. And I don't understand what value Bentancur is bringing to the team right now over a Bergvall or Simmons. And we can talk about a little bit later about how he can kind of Bergvall can potentially rectify some of the issues. But as Spurs kind of recycle it then, you see Xavi Simmons drift into the little pocket where you want him, in between Onana and McGinn there. Again, if you're Danso, can you be brave enough to risk losing the ball there for Simmons to kind of drop in, use his body, get in front of Onana, roll him, and then start running a goal? Can you do that? Again, when you look at Tottenham's kind of rest defence, we're safe at the back. We've got Bentancur there dropping into the centre-backs, Danso, Porro, and obviously Palhinha, who is excellent at being able to recover the ball. They've got good ball carriers there. If they turn it over, Spurs aren't in the most dangerous situation. Palhinha, straight away, if that ball gets lost in kind of this area here, Palhinha is straight across to that to try and clear the danger. And if Palhinha misses the tackle, then you've got a whole back four there ready. Spence out of picture as well can get back and defend. Romero would play this pass. And that's not necessarily on Kevin Danso, because I think Romero just takes the initiative, but you need players in there that will take the initiative to be able to find your best players who can create moments. You want Bergvall in there for me, because I think he's naturally, and I tweeted this yesterday, right? So someone was talking about Bentancur and said, for all the Bentancur ranks, given that in the past he's proved himself at least moderately progressive, isn't the most worrying part that he appears to be carrying out orders. So unless Frank changes his intention in our build-up, it doesn't matter much who you play there. And I do agree with that to an extent. I think these issues that we're kind of seeing are like as a result of the instructions set out by Thomas Frank, which is a worry. But that's why I think you need players in there that can totally take on board the kind of instructions from what Thomas Frank in terms of what he's trying to do, but also take the initiative. Romero is a player that takes the initiative, and it was obviously a big loss, and we're kind of reliant on him for our build-up anyway. But Bergvall, for me, I do hear this for sure. I don't think it's just totally down to personnel. Our limitations in build-up are also created by the tactical vision of the manager, but surely we get more out of partnering Bergvall next to Palhinha. He's not going to break lines with every pass like it seems like Wharton does, just as an example, but he's just far braver. He's far more positive with every action, and even if he gives it away, I feel like he's not going to be deterred from trying that same pass again, unlike what we saw with Bentancur in the first half, which I'll come on to a little bit later. Bergvall can also push on off the ball, make runs into the channels, occupy the 10 position to allow Simmons to drop a little bit deeper. Like, you want Simmons to be able to have the license to come and pick the ball up in these kind of areas to progress it through. Like, you will get their midfielders kind of committing around him, and him kind of being able to wriggle out and get you up the pitch. He is that sort of guy, like Maddison. That's why Maddison kind of dropping into that left centre-back position and build up under Ange was actually like really crucial to us a lot of the time. And obviously you saw Damsgaard kind of given the license to drop deeper as well to get on the ball. Frank does want that from their number 10, especially to be able to exploit the space in behind that Villa do leave with their high line. Like they do. I don't understand why we didn't see that yesterday. And Bergvall, for me, he gives you as much out of possession, I think, as Bentancur right now. I think he's naturally braver with it. And the fact, like I said, that you can kind of run the channels, drag players out of position, make them think a little bit more rather than just Bentancur sitting in the middle of that midfield and just passing sideways. It's kind of crab football. He's comfortable getting... Bergvall isn't a 10, but he's comfortable getting into those areas where he can receive on the half-turn and drive. It does just feel like it's an instructional thing from Frank, but players like Bergvall just make it happen and take responsibility and are naturally braver and can still offer way more than Bentancur. You've got an elite out-of-possession asset in Palhinha. You can afford to sacrifice more in midfield to get more forward-thinking players in there. That's kind of how I feel. But again, we kind of decide to go back. Porro plays down the line to Kudus, and then we're going back, and it's back to the left-hand side. It's back to the goalkeeper. It's kind of horseshoe football again. So there's no one there really to kind of offer a pass and take it on the turn, so we just recycle backwards. Bentancur dropping into that back three, recycling backwards. And then it's a long ball over to Kudus, who brings it down. And again, that's just what it feels like. It feels like we're just kind of like almost lumping it to Kudus to see what he can kind of make of it, and then we go from there. Of course, if they're going to play with a high line, try and optimise your game plan to exploit it. But also, you optimise your game plan to exploit it by getting your creative players in kind of these deeper areas to be able to then exploit the space in behind. I also think we missed a doggy because I think of his natural running power to kind of get in behind this line. I did say in a preview that I did on TikTok that I thought this little triangle down the left-hand side of Simmons, Odebear, and a doggy, before he was obviously ruled unfit, would be key. And we didn't see that. I think we saw the relationship building really nicely. I think it's just a shame that we've lost the momentum with that, obviously, now. But Spence naturally isn't going to hold that width. We saw Odebear kind of in these number 10 positions in possession a lot of the time. So he was kind of doing what he was, almost asked to do in the Leeds game in terms of trying to pull Villa players out of position. But then you haven't really got anyone on that left-hand side to exploit that space running in behind. This is what I mean with Bentancur, right? So, again, you've got Simmons in a very similar situation to what we were talking about earlier. No different to the kind of Danso examples where you can be brave and punch that. Because Simmons is the sort of player that, like I said, can lean into Kamara and roll him and use the kind of low centre of gravity to get away. Then you're running at the Villa back line. You've got runners that will make the runs in behind. Odebear from a central position. Tell as well, obviously out of picture, and Kudus can get in behind Digne. But Bentancur does the right thing. He tries it, but it's just out of Simmons' kind of reach. It's just to the right of him. But then we just saw him kind of put that pass away. We didn't see it again, right? And again, when you do kind of get Simmons in these little pockets, Porro pushing a little bit further up, Simmons can thread these little balls through to exploit that space. Kudus gets it there, plays a little 1-2 with Porro, and gets the cross in. Like it's just really not brave enough for me in these kind of games. We need to be getting the most out of our 50, 60 million pound number 10 that has come in to replace what James Maddison can't give us because of the injuries. I think Simmons can really do that. And also, like with Simmons, I don't want to take the heat off of him totally, right? Because I think there are better decisions that he can maybe make. Spurs in the second half here, long ball comes up from Van der Ven. Again, you're kind of playing the percentages, but I don't hate it to an extent, but your kind of sole game plan can't rely just on that. You've got to be braver in possession. But Spurs get an opportunity here. Tell brings it down. And this is why I'm thinking this is the moment. This is the kind of first goal. Right? But he cuts inside. He feints the shot. Again, he can definitely get something off here. Like, I think, obviously there's a chance it's blocked, but you never know. Takes a deflection, goes in. Also back in with the technique. These are exactly the sort of positions that you want Xavi Simmons in. So I'm not totally diminishing him of any blame or responsibility. I think he could have done more on the ball in the few times that he had it in dangerous areas. We saw some cute little passes from him as well and some nice little bits, but that one he makes the wrong decision. I think he could have got a shot off there instead of playing it back to Palhinha. And speaking of Palhinha, I obviously wanted to address some of the good bits from yesterday as well. Like, Palhinha is elite out of possession. Like, we saw that in that game. How many times did he do this? Break up the play in the middle of the park and then you can kind of turn and go. Tell running at the defence there, back into Odebear. Maybe Spurs could have got a free kick on the edge of the box here, but it's all come from Palhinha breaking up the play. Did this so many times. In there, breaking it up. Spurs can turn. Simmons into Kudus. Palhinha again breaking it up there. Tell can then run at that back line. Maybe some poor decision making from Tell and Odebear at times in that first half, but it just shows you the value of having Palhinha in there. And he can do the job. of him plus Bentancur and allow you to get someone like Bergvall in there who can help you deeper, who can push forward on a little bit to allow Simmons to come in. Like rotations and that unpredictability is going to help you exploit the space in behind a high line for sure. It's not just a case of just trying to lump the ball in over the top every single time, which did work a couple of times for Spurs. We were nearly able to exploit the space that Villa left. But it's also about kind of creating those little rotations, creating those little triangles to draw players in, to then kind of get your players in the positions where they can exploit the space on a more consistent basis. And having Bergvall and Simmons in there alongside Palhinha, for me, is the way to go at the moment. Of course, Sarr as well, of course, great. But I just think in games like that, Bergvall's running beyond the last line. His willingness to come in and get deep. Also, like, he won't. If he tries a pass and it doesn't come off, he won't just put that away. I feel like Bentancur has just become so safe, man. I think our biggest threat from a chance creation perspective yesterday was Pedro Porro. When the game became a little bit more stretched, you see the value of his long-range passing ability, again showing how crucial he is to our build-up. Good ball out to Odebear here, cuts inside and has a shot. I didn't really mind Odebear's performance yesterday. There was a couple of frustrating moments, but I think, again, he showed consistent willingness to kind of take on his man. I want to see him do that more, get more shots off, be more brave. Again, you see it in the second half here. I thought we had a real good kind of period of pressure and sustained momentum at the start, the first 10, 15 minutes or so of that second half. Capitalised upon by the long throws, which caused a little bit of chaos, but also from these second ball situations, we were able to create a little bit more. Like Porro, excellent ball here to kind of split that back line through to Kudus, who can then get to the byline and cut it back and cross. And it comes back to Palhinha and he gets the shot off. And I feel like we were on top at this point. It was a good response to what was a pretty pedestrian kind of first half, which again, if you're focusing on some of the good bits, did see us go in front, and it was good pressing from Tottenham again here. Simmons, Bentancur, Tell, all that kind of at it to win the ball back, win the corner. Then from the second ball from the corner, it's an unbelievable cross from Kudus, and it just does show you there is quality in this team to be able to make these happen. And Bentancur gets the goal. I don't want to just completely slag him off, but and again, it's not so much just about Bentancur. I think it's instructional as well in terms of those limitations in possession. But I just think you need players on the pitch that are going to want to make it happen. And I want to see Bergvall and Simmons in there alongside Palhinha on a more consistent basis. Of course, we've got games to rotate. There's a lot of congestion in the kind of fixture schedule. But I need to see that more consistently in these games, especially at home, where we're going to be taking teams on, looking to exploit that space, looking to play between the lines. Against a physical midfield, you need to be able to get the ball into your number 10, like Xavi Simons, quicker. He needs it. It's so frustrating. Now, to end the video, the Villa goals. I mean, I am really starting to have some question marks over Guillermo Vicario now. And this one from Morgan Rogers might seem a little bit harsh because it's a hell of a strike. And again, I thought this is what Spurs did well. Good, solid out of possession structure. I thought Simmons did really well in these kind of little battles to win the ball back. Good interception on the first one from Rogers, but he gets past him on the second one. I think it's Vicario's starting position for me here. I don't know why he's kind of almost so attached to that left post. It's a good strike. It does dip, but I think for me, like, it's not. I would be questioning him over that one. Not one of his worst of the season, but I'm not convinced. And then before the second goal, I was screaming because I don't know why we delayed so much getting these kind of subs on. Like, I don't know why there was this kind of overcoaching on the touchline, like talking to them for absolutely ages before they came on the pitch. Like, again, it was the wrong substitution, especially after conceding a goal to take Simmons off, even though, like, I'm not saying he was affecting the game massively, but against a Villa team that is then going to sit in and protect the lead a little bit more, you need Simmons that can kind of thread the eye of the needle pass against the lower block. And you take him off, bring Bergvall on the 10. I didn't really understand that. I don't know how Bentancur lasted as long on the pitch as he did, but the fact that these were on the... I literally said to everyone I was sitting with yesterday, I was like, they will score again before we make these subs, and that's exactly what happened. It's an unbelievable... Like, two brilliant goals, to be fair. Absolutely brilliant goals. Cash over to Digne. It's an unbelievable touch. Buendia in off the right. Again, Vicario, I know it comes through a crowd, but I don't know. I'm not a goalkeeper. I'm not a goalkeeping expert. I'm not a football expert, so I find it difficult to comment on goalkeepers, but I don't know, man. I'm just not... And also, like, I feel like where he's not an amazing shot stopper and doesn't give you much on the ball, it just kind of... I don't know. I think he's just upgradable. But yeah, I need to see this more. When Udogie hopefully returns from injury soon, if I can just get Spence off the pitch here. When Udogie hopefully comes back from injury soon, I want to see Spurs be a little bit more braver in these kind of games. Bergvall starting off as the deeper midfielder, pushing on at times, rotations in midfield, allowing Simmons to kind of come deeper into these pockets. And I want to see more of this little relationship that's building nicely. Massive shame that Udogie is injured. But we have the tools to kind of make a better fist of the games like yesterday. It's not good enough for me, and I think Frank needs to be questioned over these kind of setups in these kind of games. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I being too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough? Where do you stand on kind of Thomas Frank in these kind of games right now? Spurs' home form needs to improve. Teams are gonna. We need to be better at kind of breaking teams down and exploiting the space when they hand it to us. Villa weren't great yesterday. We could have made a much better fist of that game, and we should have won it. I know there were 2 good goals that won the game for Aston Villa. They didn't create much outside of that, but we didn't create that much either, other than the long throws and set pieces. That caused chaos at times, and I think there were moments in the second half where we nearly capitalised on that kind of pressure, with other moments as well from second phases and second balls, etc. But there was nowhere near enough onus on us to kind of be the ones that create the chances, be more positive, and exploit that space in behind on a regular basis. Not good enough. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Monaco preview.